Well, 2023 didn't go the way that many Gator fans expected it to. And I think that there were some positives that we can take away from that. But let's be honest. Billy Napier enters 2024 needing things to go right for the program and ultimately his future. Today, I'm going to talk about the 5 things that I think he needs to do in 2024. Now, I'm not saying that he needs to go 5 for 5 here, but if he doesn't get at least 2 or 3 or 4 of these things checked off, I think that's going to spell trouble for the Gators and ultimately his tenure here at UF. So let's talk about it. 5 things that I really think Billy Napier needs to get done. First and foremost, he has got to crush the transfer portal to start this year. They've got a big weekend coming up this weekend. A lot of transfer portal guys coming in for visits. You've got to hit on some of them. Florida has some really major immediate needs. I would say offensive line is probably their biggest need right now. Florida's offensive line was not good last year, but then there's also been some attrition on top of that, which if your offensive line isn't good, or any position group really isn't good, we shouldn't freak out about attrition at that position. The only time we should freak out is if we don't fill that position from the transfer portal. So we need to see Billy Napier pick up some offensive linemen. He's also got to hit on some defensive backs. Florida's had a lot of defensive backs hit the transfer portal. I kind of think this was by design. I really do think that UF told him, maybe this isn't the place for you. We have some young guys who are incredibly talented, but we've got to get some veteran leadership in that position, can really help out the Gators for this upcoming season while this younger talent continues to develop. I do think UF probably needs a linebacker or 2. We saw one hit the transfer portal yesterday. Scooby Williams said that he was looking for a different school. Florida has got some studs, complete studs coming in at linebacker. They've got Aaron Childs. They've got Graham coming in. Those guys are going to be really good, but we cannot rely just on true freshmen to solidify this position. We need to hit on a guy or 2 from the transfer portal at linebacker. Would be good to know who their coach is. That would probably make it easier to recruit the position. And then defensive line, we've gotten some help at that already, but Florida could use some additional help at defensive line. Lost some key guys there as well. So another position that I would really be looking at Florida to hit the transfer portal hard for. Next couple weeks, really important. There may be some additional guys that we see become available as soon as these playoffs are over. But Florida has got to hit on at least these positions in the transfer portal. They're pretty stout at some of the other positions, so that's good. But offensive linemen, DBs, linebackers, defensive linemen, Florida needs all of these guys to be successful in 2024. So hopefully Billy Napier is going to land several. We've got room. This is a smaller class than we've seen in previous years. There is scholarships available. Billy Napier needs to sign some guys, and then those guys have to be good for Florida in 2024. The next thing I honestly think potentially is one of the very most important things that Billy Napier can do to be successful here at UF. He's got to get some fire. Billy Napier's calm demeanor is probably a positive 90% of the time, right? It probably goes over really well with recruits. It probably is a huge positive in the locker room at practice. It's not a positive on game day, and it's certainly not a positive when talking to fans at press conferences. His slow, methodical, doesn't get excited voice sends the message that either A, he doesn't care, or B, he doesn't see the problem. Both of those things are a huge problem, but I don't think that either one is accurate in describing Billy Napier. I think he knows what needs to be done here at Florida. I think he really wants to win, and I think he knows what the problems are. But the issue is that he doesn't relay that in the way that he speaks to the media, and it's frustrating to fans. Fans want to see Billy Napier stand in front of them and say, This is not acceptable. This is not how we want to play football here at the University of Florida. This is not how I want to coach football. We're going to go out and find some guys that can get the job done. We're going to coach up our current players to get the job done. We're going to hire coaches with the same agenda as me. We want to win, and we want to win immediately. Fire. We need to see it. I don't need a pat on the back. You'll do it better next time. I need some aggressive coaching from Billy Napier. I need some passion in his press conferences. I need that desire to win that I know that he has. Nobody wants to win more than Billy Napier, but he's got to do a better job relaying that. He's got to make fans feel his urgency, because right now, nobody feels it. And it's not that it's not there. It's that he doesn't do a good job relaying it to the fan base. But it's part of why people are running out of patience for Billy Napier. They don't think he sees the problems like they do. And that has far more to do with his delivery in press conferences and on the sideline than it does with how he actually thinks. So that is a major adjustment that Billy Napier could make. An easy one, honestly, that would really go a very long way with this fan base. Number 3, you got to make 2 hires. You got to get an offensive coordinator, and you've got to get a special teams coach. I'm going to start with special teams coach. You guys know this is my bag. This is my favorite. Florida has got to get better at special teams. It doesn't have to be somebody that's not already in the building. You don't have to fire a coach to hire a special teams coordinator. But I need to know who it is, and he needs to be held accountable. If you're going to make your new linebackers coach a special teams coach as well, perfect. Maybe that's Bateman's replacement, right? If you're going to make Billy Gonzalez your wide receivers coach, your special teams coordinator as well, perfect. I can get behind that. He's got special teams experience. If you, Coach Napier, are going to hand the reins over to play calling to somebody else, and you yourself are going to become the special teams coordinator, perfect. That's great. But I need an on-the-field coach who is held accountable for special teams play. I don't need a coaching by committee. I don't need some analyst in a booth somewhere, or that's going to be standing 50 yards away from your special teams unit on game day. I need someone that is going to be accountable for special teams. Somebody that's going to make sure Mayday gets called correctly if it's needed. Somebody that makes sure there's 11 guys going out on the field every single time. Somebody that makes sure every special teams player is on the same page. There's got to be a guy accountable for that. We didn't have it this year. I don't care if there's an analyst listed somewhere as a game changer. He wasn't doing his job, but then he's also not being held accountable because we haven't heard anything about it since then. I need an on-the-field coach that's going to manage special teams and is going to treat them with the priority that they deserve. If you're not going to be the very best football team on the field every time you take the field, offensively and defensively, you sure as heck better take special teams seriously, because that can give you an edge. Or, as we saw last year multiple times, it can cost you a game. Show us you're serious. Tell us who the special teams coordinator is, and then hold them accountable. And then offensive coordinator. Billy has got to hire an offensive coordinator. I don't think Florida needs a whole new offensive scheme. I honestly think Billy's offense works. Florida averaged 30 points a game. That's good. If Florida could figure out averaging 35, they'd win a lot of ball games. I don't think the offensive scheme overall is the issue. The issue is the in-game play calling. There is just some sort of disconnect at what feels like the most opportune moments. Florida makes the most inopportune calls. And that's on Billy Napier. And that honestly may be because he's wearing too many hats out there. He's got too many responsibilities. But there's got to be a way to hire somebody to call plays. You want to weigh in on them? Fine. Perfect. Weigh in on them. You want it to be your offense? Totally good with that too. I think Billy Napier's offense is successful overall. But Florida lost games last season because of poor in-game management. There's got to be somebody else that's their sole responsibility if Billy Napier wants to be successful at Florida. If he doesn't choose to hire a special teams coach an offensive coordinator for next season, I think Billy Napier will live or die based on his record next season. If he hires an offensive coordinator, I think that gives him more slack. I think it allows him more grace, right? I think that it shows he knows it's an area that needs to improve on, and he's working for that to be better. Florida has got to hire an offensive coordinator. Since one hasn't been hired yet, that means if one is getting hired, he's still either coaching a bowl game or he's coaching in the NFL. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll know something solid there. But hire a freaking offensive coordinator. Number 4, you have got to find a way to finish above 500. Florida hasn't finished above 500 the last 3 years. They lost to UCF and Dan Mullins last year in a bowl game, took them under 500. Lost last year to Oregon State in a bowl game, took them under 500. Not even bowl eligible this year at all, under 500. Cannot happen for a 4th year in a row. Billy Napier has got to make a bowl game. He's got to finish over 500. I think if he does that, he sees the 2025 season, but this is an incredibly difficult schedule. They've got to find those wins in the first half of the season because the second half of the season really, really is a gauntlet. You have the opportunity, if you want to look at it that way, of playing every team in the state of Florida this year. You could be the state champion. That would go a long way with Gator fans. You lose to UCF, it's going to be a problem for Billy Napier. If you cannot figure out how to get wins at the beginning of the season, it's going to be incredibly difficult to find them later. If Billy Napier doesn't make a bowl game, I can't imagine that he sticks around for the 2025 season. And then number 5, this goes along with number 4. You open the season with Miami. You've got to beat them. If Miami had won 12 games last season and they were coming in riding this high, I think it would be different. But Miami wasn't good last year. And not only were they not good, they're going to be breaking in a whole bunch of new players too. They had a lot of guys, including their starting quarterback, hit the transfer portal. They're in a rebuild as well. They're not well coached. Their roster isn't great. Florida has to figure out a way to beat Miami week 1. That would be a great statement victory for UF. You've got to figure out a way in the swamp to come away with a victory there. It is a really bad omen for the rest of the season if you can't figure out beating Miami week 1. Flip side of that, you do meet Miami week 1. That's a great start to the 2024 season. That's a win you can hang your hat on. That's an in-state rival. That's somebody you go up against recruiting-wise all the time. A head-to-head victory against a program that is also struggling but fights with you for recruits is a huge advantage. He's got to figure out a way to beat Miami week 1. All right, guys, we had a blast growing with you in 2023, and I am super, super excited about what 2024 is going to bring. I hope you guys are enjoying this new year already, and we're going to be ready to roll as we head into the season. Lots of good content coming for you. I am really excited about it. I hope you are too. Thank you for all your support, and go Gators.